Hi everyone, Ryan here from Fight Game Analysis, and today we're going to be looking back at the fight that just wrapped up between Amir Khan and Kell Brook. But before we jump into that, if you've been enjoying the content, please go ahead and click on the like button and also subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate your support. Okay, so just last night, big fight wrapped up between Amir Khan and Kell Brook. This is one we've been waiting for, I don't know, it seems like forever, man. Both of these guys are from the UK, both about the same age, both actually live really close to each other. Their careers just kind of coming up, mirroring each other in a lot of ways. I mean, not exactly. Amir Khan was a lot more popular, saw more success, amateur and pro, but they were always there. Because of their age, they were always talked about, they were always there, particularly, we heard about it in America, so imagine what it was like over there. And finally, after all the back and forth, years and years, we finally get to fight. Kind of anticlimactic. Neither one of these men were at their peak, far past their prime, right? But Kell Brook comes out, gets the 6-round stoppage. Good for him. Batters Amir Khan around for a little while, catches him early with just a counter jab, hurts him with a power jab in the right hand. Later in the first round, puts Amir Khan on the wobbly legs, and Amir Khan did what Amir Khan does. There were some points in the fight where he was working his hand speeds, shooting some combinations, landing a few shots here and there, but ultimately, man, Kell Brook just walked him down, landed the big shots, the overhand right particularly, timed some stuff. Eventually got him out of there, man. He was so... You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of Amir Khan's fight with Danny Garcia in a lot of ways. You think about that one. Danny Garcia comes out there, and he was getting beat for, I don't know, whatever it was, the first 2 rounds, the first 3 rounds, 4 rounds. I don't remember when it was when he landed that first big left hook. Right, but Danny Garcia did what Danny Garcia does. Comes out in that fight, plants his feet, goes for timing, punches with you, tries to get right in between your punches, catches Amir Khan, who's got the much faster hands, blitzes in, lands stuff. Danny Garcia just plants his feet, lands that big left hook, catches Amir Khan. Fight was changed after that point, but he couldn't get him out of there right away. Catches him with that left hook. The fight's completely different from that point, but then he's got to beat him up for a little while before he gets him out of there. Similar thing last night with Kell Brook. Kell Brook hurts him early, but he's got to beat him up for a little while before he eventually gets him out of there. I hope this is it for Amir Khan, man. I hope that he stays true to what he was saying. I hope he considers retirement all the way, pulls the plug, done. Like, look at the career the man's had. Silver medalist in the Olympics. And then just comes out early and starts making a wave in the pro ranks and starts doing things. Gets caught early. Remember when he got caught early with that left hook by Bredis Prescott? Everyone started talking about how chinny he was. Everyone was talking about how he couldn't handle it. But then there was that group of people who were, no, he just got caught early. He got caught cold. The weight wasn't right for him. He was weight drained. He was putting on too much muscle, and then he was weight drained and just wasn't ready for it. Look how skinny his legs are. His conditioning wasn't. There was a lot of people saying a lot of things. Amir Khan was far too promising, far too many athletic gifts. The hand speed and the combinations and everything, far too intoxicating to write him off just because he got caught early and got dropped and knocked out in that fight. Then he hooks up with Freddie Roach. And that's kind of the period that I'll always remember Amir Khan for, is when he was working with Freddie Roach out at the wild card. That's when Manny Pacquiao was out there. Look at the work that he did, man, once he started working with him. Goes out there, gets past Marcos Maidana, gets past Zab Judah. I think, if I remember correctly, I had him winning that fight with Lamont Peterson. Then eventually runs into Danny Garcia, and everything kind of changed after that point. Nothing was quite the same. That was kind of like, all right, all the people who had believed that he was just not really chinny, people who believed he just got caught cold, or he was young, or the weight drained, or whatever from the Bredis Prescott fight. After that Danny Garcia fight, it was, then people kind of stepped back and said, maybe this guy just doesn't have the punch resistance. Maybe he's just not going to be able to make it happen. And then we saw what happened. He runs into Canelo. And what? I don't know. That was. He's working with Virgil Hunter at that point. I get it. He's trying to catch and counter. He's trying to work on his defense. He's trying to, utilize the fundamentals that Virgil Hunter had become famous for after working with Andre Ward and everything. And no, man, he was in against the guy way over his head when he was in there against Canelo. Just far too big, far too strong, far too skilled. And Canelo got him out of there in devastating fashion. And we've seen that a few times since. And all of his knockouts have been devastating ones. All of his knockouts have been these highlight reel ones where he just, he gets caught nasty in them. Up to and including Last night, I don't know, I guess it wasn't the one big punch highlight reel knockout in the way that we saw with like Canelo, but at the same time, he got beat up for a while. So the man has had an incredibly successful career. I take nothing from him because of his losses. His wins are his wins. He did what he did. I enjoyed watching him practice his craft for all these years, man. Been a fan for a while. And like I said, I'll always think back to him on those times. Make no mistake about it. When I mentioned that he beat Marcos Maidana, I'd also like to throw in, this was before Maidana beat Adrian Broner. This was before Marcos Maidana gave Floyd a really tough time in their first fight. Before then, Amir Khan whooped him, and he whooped him pretty easy, man. So, he was, I encourage people to go back and watch some of those fights. They were highly impressive. Amir Khan looked really good. That's when he was at the top of his game. Kell Brook, same type of thing. He comes out, man, just looks great in physical shape, but this isn't the Kell Brook of old, okay? When I think of Kell Brook, I think about that fight with Sean Porter. Sean Porter was like a 4 to a 5-1 favorite going into that fight. I thought he was going to win. I thought just the raw aggression and the hand speed and the combinations and the way that he gets inside. And he's got this like almost just rough and tumble, grinded out technique that I thought it was going to be too much for Kell Brook. Kell Brook was physically strong, but that Porter was going to be able to push him back. He was going to be able to land that big chopping right hand that he was known for at the time. In the first round, I knew that my prediction was in jeopardy. I knew that there was something that I did not account for, and that was when Kell Brook came out and he caught Sean Porter, who was dipping and bobbing and weaving and moving and trying to come in and everything, and he caught him with this beautifully timed counter left jab. Just a beautiful counter jab that just stopped Sean Porter right in his tracks, made him reset. And you could tell that he kind of had to look a little bit like, man, that was a stiff shot. You could tell that he didn't expect it, and I knew right away. If Kell Brook was able to back up by those half steps, manage the gap, if he was able to time that, and he was able to land a jab that landed with that much authority, it was going to be a long night for Sean Porter. And lo and behold, Kell Brook ends up coming out with the win, man, and that kind of put him on the stage. At that point, I want to say that's when he was really at his prime, in my opinion. That's when he was really out there. He was doing things. The world had kind of opened up to him at that point. Guys that are coming over from the UK, they got to make the transition. They got to come over here to really, really, truly get the biggest fights, to get the biggest money, to get the biggest names, to kind of cement their legacy. Everybody knows that, you got to come over to America to kind of make that happen. And when he beat Sean Porter, in my mind, at the time I felt like it, and even looking back, I still feel that way, like that was his just, that ridiculous moment for him when it was all opened up. And then this dude goes out and tests fate. I mean, what more is there to say? He goes out and absolutely tests fate. Completely ill-advised, in my opinion. I don't know why he did it other than to just say the man's a true fighter in his heart. I don't know. But he goes out there and fights Triple G. Man, I get that you're big and strong for welterweight, but now you're stepping up and fighting somebody who's a ferocious puncher and strong at middleweight. So he goes up, fights Triple G, and just gets battered. I think he got his orbital bone that broke in that fight. If I remember correctly, got beat up. Maybe something with his ribs. Not exactly sure, but that was the same type of thing where I looked at it and I was like, after that fight, he wasn't the same anymore. Sometimes guys just have fights and it just takes them out of them. They just get beat up. They're not quite the same. There's some analogies. And it's like you look at a brick wall, and that brick wall is just getting chipped away at constantly, day after day, time after time. It's just getting little chips here and there, nothing all too significant. It appears to take it all, but it's getting chipped away. The integrity is being compromised. And then finally, one day after years, a little 12-year-old girl comes over and leans against the wall to tie her shoe. Brick wall falls over. Now, did the little girl break down the wall? I mean, I guess technically she was the one who was there that was leaning against it when it happened. But we all know that it was because of the years that wall was getting chipped away at. And it's kind of like that for a fighter. You think about all the amateur work that they did. You think about all the time in the gym and the sparring. You think about all of the professional fights. And then on top of it, he goes in there against a man like Triple G, who's just a ferocious puncher. You're above your weight, never fought anybody who can bang like that. And I just felt like after that fight, he wasn't quite the same. So then he drops back down to welterweight after that fight, but goes in there with another dude who's just an absolute savage named Errol Spence. Errol Spence goes in there and beats him up. I think he might have re-injured the same orbital bone in that fight, but he got injured in that fight, and I was just looking at it and it's like, I mean, what are you going to do, man? Right at this point, it kind of is what it is. And, ends up taking some more losses down the line. But look, last night it was good to see both of these men out there. Wish Amir Khan would have looked a little bit better. But I was glad to see this finally get settled. I was glad to see this fight finally get made. I was glad to see both men kind of come full circle with their career, so to speak. Back at home where it started, then it ended. At least I hope it ends for Amir Khan at the very least. I certainly wouldn't be upset if Kell Brook called it quits too. But what are you going to do? We'll see what each man does. The fire is just burning in them. Even though they're getting up there in age, they may find it hard to hang up the gloves just yet. So let me know what you guys think. Were you impressed by what Kell Brook did? Were you surprised by it? You've been fans of both men for a while. Want to see him continue? Hang it up? Let me know.